I believe that God, the universe, gives their toughest battles to their toughest soldiers in training.
Welcome to another episode of Positivity with Priscilla, a show that focuses on gratitude and tips of how to be and remain positive during today's climate. In the famous words of the artist Pitbull KMUZ family that I love to quote so much, any day above ground is a good day. Well, KMUZ family, I have a special guest with us today. Yes, that's right. And his name is Miguel Mendoza. Miguel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited to be here. So awesome. I know we've been following each other for a while, and you're doing amazing stuff. So I want to throw that out there first. But yeah, I mean, I'm no one special. You know, I'm someone from the Northwest. I'm from Tri-Cities, Washington. But I've lived here in Northwest Oregon, Portland area for about over 10 years now, and I actually have local somewhat roots. I went to Willamette University.
Nice.
Played football there, and go Bearcats. But yeah, I'm a fitness trainer. Like that's like
Okay.
my passion, my love, and then and the reason why I love that so much is helping people more than just fitness. There's a mental side to it, and helping people get results and feel good about that and feel conquered, and that resonates to their job and to their even parenthood or relationship with their friends. And so I'm someone who loves to impact, and then started podcasting and speaking a couple of years ago, and that just stemmed from specifically training athletes. And that I had so many people tell me, you should start a podcast. And funny enough, that was the plan all along, to speak and to touch the hearts of people who
I love that.
who needed it, who needed that extra support. Because I've been there. I'm sure we'll get into my story, but I've been there where I needed to hear a voice and read a book and
Right.
something to really help spark something different in me, coming from such a limited childhood. And we met off air. We talked about Les Brown. Les Brown's one of my heroes, and so I wanted to pay that forward and to other people. But most importantly in my life, I am a father to an awesome 9-year-old boy. His name's Marcus. Shout out to Marcus, and he's definitely the joy of my life, and yeah, he's awesome. So there's a little bit about me. Yeah.
So let's talk about your childhood. But before we do that, you talked about the Tri-Cities. So who knows, maybe we have some relatives in common. So I was born in Pasco, Washington. I have a lot of relatives in Pasco, Moses Lake, a lot of relatives. So
That's crazy.
What part of the Tri-Cities?
Yeah, so Pasco. This is insane. I didn't know this. And it's a smaller area, so this is very surprising to people who don't know the area. But raised in Pasco mostly, lived in Kennewick for a little bit. But yeah, my whole family's over there. Everybody's over there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, immediate family, cousins, aunts, grandma, like everybody's over there. And so
Okay,
it's
we
super
probably have some,
cool. Oh, we have to.
right?
We have to, yeah.
Okay, that's
we gotta know
interesting.
people.
We have to talk after this.
We'll dive deep, yeah, for sure.
So tell me about your childhood. What was that like?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say that I have two incredible parents, two very loving parents who were young parents and didn't know what the heck they were doing. And, they, have trauma. They were young. My dad never knew his father. My mom, there was, abuse in the household. So I believe that they may not say this, but I believe they did the best they could with what they knew and with what they learned and what they were taught. And so all that to lead into saying that childhood was rough. It was a rough childhood. It wasn't a white picket fence. My parents divorced when I was 6, and they had their battles, and I have other siblings. And so I really had to figure things out and find my way. And not saying I did. Like I'm a broken individual, but I believe that broken crayons can still color.
Absolutely.
And I believe that, we all need healing from something. And so that's a daily journey, but I'm not ashamed of that. And I'll be the first to admit that, I am not a complete person. I'm a broken person. I wouldn't even consider myself a good person, because that's always subjective or objective, whatever the word is. It's good on whose standards, biblical standards. I fall short every day. So I struggled a lot. And, but really where things started to click for me was through a kind of a tragic moment in my life, where when I was 13, I was diagnosed with a disease called ulcerative colitis. It's an inflammatory bowel disease, and there's no cure for it. And mine was a pretty severe case. I mean, I was like just losing a lot of blood. I was just getting super pale, skinny. And it was looking like it was eventually going to lead into colon cancer, and medicines weren't working. And, but, by the grace of God, there are these doctors from Mexico who just so happened to be in town.
Okay.
And we went to their conference to hear about exactly what they do in their practice. And basically, like, just to simplify it, imagine the way that people were treated and cured thousands of years ago, before medicine was ever created and all that stuff, using like cold water, hot water, steam, sun, dirt, mud, cleaning me from the inside out. I'll leave it at that for those who are eating and listening to this. But it was a grind, but in 6 weeks I was cured.
Oh, wow.
6 weeks I was cured. But within that 6 weeks, about halfway through, I was getting ready to throw in the towel and just give up and want to go back home and accept my fate. But my mom, she was reading this book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield.
Okay.
And she would spit out, because she went with me to Mexico, because I was there in their clinic for 6 weeks. And she spit out little nuggets about, this is why it's important to write down your goals. Like, this is what the book says about it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to read that book myself. And that changed my life. Just understanding that, that in itself, writing down your goals and the importance of that, and looking at your goals every day, and understanding the subconscious, what that's doing subconsciously to the mind. And so the first goal I wrote down was to get better. And then I was in my freshman year of high school. I had to do online school because I was bedridden even before leaving to Mexico. And so my next goal was to make varsity for football going into my sophomore year. And I just wrote down goal after goal after goal after goal. And then I was like, I need more of this. So I started listening to Les Brown on YouTube. And I'm just at that point, like, that's just when it clicked. That's when, the walls, the imaginary walls of limitations really started to drop in my life. And I'm just like, you know what? Despite what I've gone through, despite what I'm going through, despite who has hurt me in the past, despite my mistakes, despite this, despite that, it's like, I can actually achieve great things in this life, and I can actually help people, and I can actually impact people. But I was always of the mindset of like, I need to get better. I need to work on myself first. I need to achieve my goals, and then I can help people, right? Because it's tough for, especially a kid, but a kid who's got to get his stuff on track and meet my goals to then help people. So I always knew that was the vision eventually. So that's why I mentioned, even when I was training my athletes right out of college, I knew that this was going to be the plan eventually. Okay. And so, I was cured, went back home and just started grinding away, continuing to work on my mind, which was most important, most significant, my faith. And, eventually led me to college. That's a whole other story, kind of an alternative route. But playing college football as a single dad at Willamette. And after that, went on to open up my business training athletes, and then started my podcast, and then started, going off to places to speak and stuff like that. So that's kind of that version of it.
I love that. I want to ask you, so it was really when your mom gave you that book that really like opened your eyes to another way of thinking. So what does your mom mean to you?
Oh, my mom is, that's my queen right there. Yeah, she.
And what is her name?
Her name is Mary Lou. Love you, Mom. She went through a rough time. She went through a rough childhood. She went through a rough young adult life. But she loves her kids and she loves her grandkids, and that's the focal point of her life is her family. And even, that toxic family that, you need to just let go. She never does. And for better and for worse, she's very loyal. She's so loyal to her family, and but especially to her kids. And I'm her baby, so I'm her youngest. So I've only felt the most amount of love from her. And even to this day, even if we go weeks or a month without talking, as soon as we get on the phone, it feels like we just talked yesterday. And we have a very special connection, a very special bond. And so very grateful for her.
I love that. So if she was here in this room with us today, what would you tell her?
I love you. I tell her I love you. I would tell her thank you. I would tell her thanks for putting up with me during rough years, during teenage years, and thank you for being patient and trusting in God when I was going through what I was going through, and the illnesses and the troubleness of kind of being led without a father figure for a lot of my life. And I mentioned I love my dad. He always provided for his kids, but he definitely had his battles. And again, he didn't know his dad. He didn't have the handbook. He didn't have the guide on how to do this. And but me and my dad currently have an amazing relationship. Love that. It's only gotten stronger as I've become an adult. But yeah, my mom has just really trusted that things were gonna work out. And she never had a lay down and die attitude. Even to this day, she's still learning and growing and working on ways to be even healthier and fitness. And she's kicking butt. She's awesome.
I love that. Tell me memories of you growing up. You stated that you were that your parents were together until you were about 6 years old, correct?
Yeah. Tell
me a family memory during that time.
Yeah. I don't have many memories. I was just talking about this with a friend the other day, but the youngest memory I have consistently was probably when I was 9 years old. Anything before that, there's just like little spot memories here and there. But I do have one during that time.
Okay.
And I remember my parents are arguing, and again, just young couple, no guidance. Like, what the heck do you expect? When it's two broken people from broken homes trying to build a home together. It was a disaster. But I remember them arguing, and I got in the middle of the argument. I think I was 5 at the time, maybe 6 by then. I remember getting in the middle of them and hoping that would stop the argument. I'm sure a lot of kids can relate. I've been there.
Right.
And it eventually it did, but in a way that I guess scarred me, because I remember it to this day. But I remember my parents, they did the thing where they were both calling me to come to them. So being in the middle of them and having to decide who to go to, and I chose my mama's boy all the way. And then I'm not saying this is why, but the irony of me going on to not really have a deep connection with my father growing up. And so yeah, that was a tough one. And we, whenever you want, we can get into me as a father to my son. But I just remember things like that, to where I just said, I will never put my child through something like this. I will never put them through, even having to see me and his mother argue.
Right.
And so, because I'm a broken individual, and it's a daily process. It's a daily healing journey. But I'm grateful for a lot of the, a lot of those scars, because they've helped me develop a certain character that I needed to establish in my leadership to help the youth today. And so, I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know any other way, but I'm grateful for how things have ended up. But yeah, so that's a memory. That's a memory right there. And then, I just, the scariest part I want to say about childhood, and, I've had people that have, had to take care of me, babysitters, this and that, who, were abusive physically and mentally. But the scariest part about my childhood, and what I really hope to help make a change, not just in my son's life, but in all kids, is the feeling of not having anybody to go to, of not have you either, you're in trouble, and you don't have anyone to go to because you're terrified. You're terrified of them looking down on you or them getting you in trouble. And, that's how I felt. So many things, like I just had to bottle it, scream in a pillow, punch a pillow, whatever it was. And it's a scary thing for a kid. I believe a child should have at least his parents, if not more, relatives or father-like figures, coaches, whoever. But I believe a child should be able to go to somebody for anything.
What would you have liked growing up then, so that you didn't have to scream in that pillow?
I don't know. And the reason I just don't have an answer is because I just don't know of any other way. My parents staying together, maybe that would have made things worse, right? Continuous arguments, because eventually, once me and my two older brothers became teenagers, like they were just friends and everything was fine. So, I don't know. We all know the saying that God gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I believe that, and when I say God, for a certain person, that could mean the universe or whatever you believe in. But I believe that God, the universe, gives their toughest battles to their toughest soldiers in training. So you're being prepared for something. You're being prepared. And so I believe that a lot of what I went through, I was being prepared for something. And that goes for anyone out there who's going through something challenging. If you're going through something challenging, you may just be in the process of being prepared for a greater purpose. And I don't mean that any sort of abuse is okay or any sort of mistreatment is okay, but there's so many things out of our control. So for those things out of your control, you have to understand that you can only control the controllables.
Right.
And so the way of thinking has to be, I'm being prepared for something. I'm being prepared for something. Not necessarily woe is me, not necessarily, playing the victim card, even though there's a time and a place to mourn. There's a time and a place to seek help. There is. But you're being prepared for a greater purpose. And what I would hate is for somebody to not understand that and grasp that, to go through that, to go through that process, that pruning process. And so that's why I say, I'm grateful. I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I was being prepared, for something. Does that mean that now life is a white picket fence? Not necessarily. There's things that I have to, work on daily. Like, I have bad habits from my childhood, not necessarily that show up or pop up in my life, but mentally, and those are things that I have to lay at the feet of God every day and just work this day on those things. Like, today I'm going to work on not being selfish, right? Because there's a certain part of me that had to be selfish growing up. There's a certain part of me that just I had to look after myself to get through certain things. And, so I wish I could just sit here and say, went through a whole bunch of stuff. Now I'm better. Now I'm perfect. Like, that's not the case. It's not the case at all. And that's why I say I can't even say that I'm a good person, right? Because that's subjective. But yeah, that's so it's a long answer to your question, but I can't answer that confidently as far as, what would I wish I would have had. All I know is what I know I will give to my son and what he won't have to go through. That's what I do know. So it's not so much of a like, let me look back, but let me take things from the past that worked, that didn't work, and prepare for a better future for myself, for my child, for any youth athletes or youth, anyone that comes across my leadership. I'm going to take all that stuff and learn from it so I can help pave a better way for our youth.
So before I ask you about being a father, I want to ask, how was it for you to try to repair your relationship with your dad? What did that look like? Yeah,
so it was a decision. I believe love is a decision. And, I'm not married. You're married. You could probably talk about this much better than I can. But I believe that if you base love off of feelings, those feelings sometimes are not there every day, right? Sometimes they'll fade. And so, but you always have to go back to your decision of I made the decision to love you. I made the decision to give my heart to you. And so with my father, I had every reason to never talk to him again. I had every reason to just grow into my adult life and just let bygones be bygones and throw up the deuces and see you later. It's all good. I'm good. I'm an adult now. I don't need a dad anymore. But I made that decision because one big reason was because I would like my son to know who his grandfather is on my side of the family. And the other is, I understand that, my father didn't know his father. And so, how can I want to receive grace if I don't give grace, right? How do I want to receive undeserved kindness if I can't give necessarily undeserved kindness? And when I say that, I meant what I said earlier. My father always showed up to work. Always, we never starved. We never starved. I mean, we weren't balling, but me and my siblings, we never starved a day in our life. And so at the standard of providing for your children, he did that. He did that. And I am extremely grateful for that. And that's, perhaps that's why I have that mindset of there's just no question I have to provide for my child. That's just how it has to be. And that's most important, is providing for him and making sure he's taken care of. And so, answer your question, it was a decision. It was a decision. And it wasn't much more than that.
Were you ever able to tell your dad of what you needed from him as a child?
No. He, over the past couple years, he's in some ways or the other acknowledged that himself.
Okay.
And so I have a total of 8 siblings. 3 different moms, but we all love each other. We feel like full siblings, even though we're half siblings. But my father, he really grew in his relationship with God and just went through his own spiritual journey. And so as far as my younger siblings, so my youngest sibling's 9, which is my son's age. Shout out to Mexicans. That's what we do. And so my youngest sibling's 9, and it goes all the way up to 32. I'll be 30 this month. And I'm so grateful that my younger siblings, they had the best version of my dad. and I'm so grateful for that. And in a way, it was almost as if that healed a little part of me. Like that healed a little part of me to see just how involved he is and how much he. I mean, that's just it. How involved he is, and they don't necessarily have to worry about that, and not saying, my dad has been absolutely perfect. I mean, none of us has, but it's, so that's real cool to see my little siblings get to have that. So that's been awesome.
So what is your relationship with your youngest sibling?
So again, they're all in Tri-Cities, and so I don't get to see them as much as I'd like. My youngest sibling, it's funny you asked that. He's probably the one I don't have the closest bond with. But he's very sweet boy. But it's we love each other a lot, and then it's so funny because he's got all these siblings around, and I think I'm the only one that's not in Tri-Cities. But he a couple of times I had to remind him. I'm like, we have the same dad, right? Like, because he'll say something like, "Oh, this is my dad." I'm like, he's my dad too, right? So I don't know if he just thinks like I'm an uncle or something, but I think he's dialed in now. I think he understands that we're brothers.
So, my husband and I were teen parents when we got married, and we had to get married in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, because of our ages.
Okay.
And so we have 2 children, and our oldest one there's a huge age gap between our youngest one. And so I kind of understand the age difference.
Yep. No, definitely. But it's awesome. And then when I get to take my son over to Tri-Cities, he's so filled. He gets to hang out with all of them, and obviously they're his age. And then I have a niece and a nephew who are just a bit older than 9. I think they're 11 and 12, and it's so much fun. It's really awesome. We have a really good family atmosphere right now, and I can't really say that was the case when I was growing up, and so it's awesome. Huge blessing for sure.
I love that. In KMUZ family, I'm not advocating for teen marriages or anything like that, because it is a journey.
It is. I always say that too. I'm like, I don't recommend it, but
no, I do love my husband, so
that's good.
But so let me ask you this. Tell me about your relationship, or tell me when you learned that you were going to become a father.
Yeah. So, again, I was, what was I? At the time I was 19. My son was born when I was 20. But I was just a knucklehead. I was just so caught up in football. I was still pursuing football.
What position did you play?
I running back.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I was all about the speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so being from Tri-Cities at the time, I was playing at a junior college in California, in Pasadena City College. And I would, go to Tri-Cities to visit on school breaks and stuff, and ended up visiting Portland. And that's where I met my son's mom, and, we kept in touch, and when I would leave town and all that stuff. And we didn't date very long. And then, when I would get to come over and we were 2 young, dumb kids, we would do young, dumb kid stuff. And then we ended up breaking up, which didn't work out, simple as that. And then a couple weeks later, found out she was pregnant. And we'd considered getting back together, but it just didn't work out. And then she's now married, and we have a great dynamic. And they have 2 more little kids. So my son has 2 younger siblings. And so, but anyway, so found out I was going to be a dad, and I wasn't living in Oregon at the time, and it was not a hard decision. If I wanted to be a part of my son's life, I had to move my entire life over here, and so moved over here before he was born, and then I just planned on hanging up the cleats. Like, I thought football was over. Like, it's time to just work, and that's it. However, the whole custody stuff. So the first year. Wait,
I want to know what you thought when your son was first born, what your thoughts were when you first saw him.
Oh, man. I don't know. I was just
what were you feeling?
Yeah, I was in love. Like, I just instant, like, yeah, this is this is destiny. Like we were meant to be together. And I'm telling you, like it was my dream to be a dad. Like even because I had little siblings, so I loved kids. And I remember in high school, I already had his name picked out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I already had his name picked out. And I remember being in my stadium in high school on the football field and just hearing like, what's a cool name to be announced on a speakerphone, and last name is Mendoza. So I want to keep the same initials, MM. And, I just heard it, Marcus Mendoza. And I'm like, there it is. That's it. But, I wanted to be a dad so bad. I thought it would never happen. Like that was just a fear I couldn't explain of just wanting something so bad, like wanting to be a dad so bad. I just thought it would never happen. And so, it's not ideal to hear from your ex-girlfriend that she's pregnant. Like that's not an ideal situation. But, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't like joyful. Right. I wasn't joyful and didn't know what things would look like down the road with me and her. But yeah, that was like the best news, ever. And then when he was born, it's just, yeah, I couldn't explain it. I just couldn't. Yeah, it was amazing. I got to be in there. I got to watch him be born and got to cut his umbilical cord. And it was a special day. November 11, 2016. It was a very, very special day. 6:22 p.m. It was the best. It was the best ever. And, yeah, there's a day you're born, and then there's a day you realize why you're born. And I truly felt that day was the day I realized why I'm here. I'm here to be this boy's father. Everything else is cool. Yeah, everything else is cool. Everything else is great. Everything else is awesome. I love what I'm doing, but I don't really care to be remembered for much. I just, whatever impact I make, I want that to continue. I don't need my name on things. But if I were to be remembered for anything, it would be being a loving father to my son. And yeah, so that's yeah, I can go on.
So tell me what you love doing with your son.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with like 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. I would say mine is really just quality time. So it's not so much of like what we do, but us just doing it together. And he feels the same way. Because we kind of have a very unique relationship in the sense of I've always designed my life to where whatever I'm doing, wherever I go, he has to be able to come with me. And I kid you not, like when I had the recruit visit at Willamette just here down the street, Coach Glenn Fowles, when I came on the recruiting visit, my son was with me. And then I remember at the very end, I'll tell you a cool little story. We're there in his office, and this is the first time I'm meeting the head coach. I meet the assistant coaches and everything, but this is the first time I'm meeting with him, and my son's with me. And at the time, he's like 16 months. So he's
little. Yeah,
he's always been such a good boy, but like he just wanted to like wander and look around the office, and I was going to stop him, but then the coach was like, no, it's fine, let him go. So he goes, so imagine like this studio here, and then out there is a big conference room with the other coaches' desk and everything, and where they all meet. And there's a microwave and some stuff out there. So he goes out, and he's like, oh, the coaches will keep an eye on him, don't worry about it. And he comes back in, and he brings me a hot sauce, okay? And then he leaves again, he wanders off again, and he comes back, and he brings me another hot sauce. And then he leaves, and he comes back, and he gives me a third hot sauce. Now, I'm not saying this is true, but I like to believe this. I think that he was trying to tell the coach, hey, coach, my dad's got the sauce. You want this guy on your football team. And but at the end of that meeting, Coach Fowles, he said, if you can find a way to pull this off, like, we'll have you. We'll have you. And so, yeah, he was with me in practices, in the locker room and everything. And don't get me wrong, like I was limited on a lot of stuff. It definitely affected like my career moving forward in football because, if the kid's crying,
right,
I'm not practicing. Like I'm there on the sideline just with them. And And so he was always the priority of my life. And a lot of that is because I was not the priority when I was a child. I never knew what that was like. And so then I'm already, my last year at Willamette, I'm already started my training career. I'm a certified trainer at 24 Hour Fitness at the time. And it works out fine. Like, I usually do my sessions when my son is with his mom, and if he is with me, then this is when 24 Hour Fitness used to have a daycare, and I'd put him in that daycare only because I knew who was in there. They were my coworkers and all that. And then, school was over for me, college was over, football was over, and so then it was time to get more serious in my training career. And that's when 24 Hour Fitness management said, yeah, so staff members can't have their kids in the daycare when they're on the clock.
Oh.
And so, this is where some people find ways to sulk and complain. But for me, it's just like, okay, all this is God telling me it's time to go off on my own.
Right.
And so I didn't have a whole lot of clients at the time, but I had enough to leave and start up my own business. And the biggest reason was so my son could be with me as I train my clients. And so, my son grew up in a gym. That's just how it was. And people knew my son. They loved him. Like, so many of my clients saw him grow up. It was really, really cool. But yeah, so I'm not saying everybody can do that. I'm not saying that's realistic for everybody. Some people will just go into corporate jobs right away, whatever the case may be. And that's just a no-go. But for me, I already was limited on how much I could see him, right? Co-parenting, custody stuff. So I wasn't going to have my son just to have to give him to, childcare, daycare, whatever the case may be. So it was, we're a package deal, and we've always been a package deal, and it has definitely paid off, like 1,000%.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to chat with you about your upcoming podcast, because you've had a podcast for a while, but you posted something recently. And but before we talk about that podcast, I want to talk about your recent post that really resonated with me. And can you talk about that post really quick?
Yeah. So is it the one that I posted today? At least the day that we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. So vision. What did that post say? It said, you can tell when somebody has a vision without them saying a word. You can just tell by the way they prepare, by the way they carry themselves, by the way they speak, by the way you just feel their vibe, their aroma, whatever you want to call it, because oftentimes people will always talk about what they're going to do.
Right.
And I know you know what I'm talking about, because you're doing amazing things where you had to put in the work. You had to take the first step. You had to believe when times got difficult and got hard. And, there's I don't know the exact study, but it was somewhere in the realms of, you really have to be careful about talking about your goals, about talking about what you want to do, because talking about it will actually release something in the brain to make you feel like you've achieved it. So you won't actually put in the work and make it happen. So really, you shouldn't talk about a whole lot that you're gonna do in the first place. You just shouldn't. You should just keep it underground, work behind the scenes, and allow people to see it when it happens. You don't have to get people on your team before, because that they won't be on your, the people won't believe in you until you actually succeed. At least not those outside of your family or close friend group. And so, but regardless, you don't have to, or I should say, you will be able to tell when somebody has a vision, a strong vision for something to make impact, a great idea, something that's going to help a lot of people, by just the way they carry themselves, right? They're not complaining. they're finding solutions. And then, that post you're talking about, I ended it by saying, to surround yourself with people like that. Surround yourself with people who have vision. There's a proverb that says, without vision, the people perish. And that can be translated to, without vision, people have no self-control. So vision gives us self-control. Vision allows us to be structured, right? Having a vision in our life allows us to be grounded and not be what I call a hopeless wanderer. Hopeless wanderers are the ones who are just trying to get to the weekend, complaining Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is that they do, substances, partying, which I'm not saying certain stuff is bad to a certain extent, to a certain limit. Like, enjoy yourself, enjoy time off, like get your recovery, like that's super important. But when you have no vision and you're just a hopeless wanderer, you imagine a tumbleweed, right? A tumbleweed in the wind, it's going to blow you whichever way the wind wants to blow you. And so if you don't have a vision that grounds you, you're going to be just like that tumbleweed that's just flowing whichever the way the wind wants to take you. And so vision is needed. It's required. And so, I mean, that's a whole other conversation on itself as far as like, well, how do I get a vision? Like, what is my vision? And,
right.
And I believe that everybody has a vision. I believe everybody has a purpose.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to blame the individual who doesn't know their vision. It's a societal thing. We grow up thinking that our dreams and goals need to be limited. Like, you need to be realistic. You need to kind of stay inside this box, because if you step outside this box, it gets dangerous and it gets risky and all these things. But that's so far from the truth. That's so far from the truth in the sense of we are here for a reason. I believe we're all here to impact, to leave an impact in this world that will last longer than us.
Right.
And but yeah, the problem is people grow up with limitations, and so they don't even know, like, their purpose, their vision is buried from all that limitations that people have put over them without them even knowing.
Right.
They've just fell under the same cycle of limitations. And there's this analogy about training a flea to stay inside of a jar. So if you put this is actually done in real life, but if you put a flea inside of a jar, it's going to jump out right away. It's going to jump out. But if you put that flea inside the jar and then quickly put a lid over it, it's going to try to jump out several times, but then eventually it just jumps below the lid. And then you give it some more time, and then you take that lid off, and what do you think happens?
It's not going to try to jump anymore.
It still jumps.
But not to the...
Correct. It still jumps below where that lid would be. So I believe that perfectly describes what we go through as a society of don't jump outside that jar. Don't jump outside the jar. You have to stay within this jar. Like, don't get too risky. Or on the other side, let's just say that flea tried, but failure. And then so eventually you're just like, it's not meant for me. Like, I need to stop trying, and I need to stay within my boundaries. But, if you just hear the stories of, certain successful people, how many failures did they have? A lot. People have had a lot of failures before it was that 1,001st attempt.
Right, that is true.
And so either you start off limited, not even knowing that there's anything above that jar, or you have tried and you got discouraged and you gave up. And so that's why a lot of our vision is so buried in limitations, because we just don't know. My favorite quote, who's it by? It's been so long since I've said this. My favorite quote, we'll have to find who it's by, but it's, those willing to risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. And that that just hits so many subjects in one sentence. Those willing to risk going too far. So risk, meaning there's going to be risk involved. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to risk your comfort. You're going to have to risk some toxic friendships. You're going to have to risk your time. You're going to have to risk certain things that you enjoy doing on your free time in order to find out how far you can go. So those willing to risk going too far. What's too far? Too far is going beyond that jar. Too far is going to places that people told you can't go to, that people told you that don't even bother. No one from this town has ever done that. Don't even waste your time. It's like, no, I'm curious enough to find out how far I can go in this life. And that's where it starts is curiosity, is those that are curious enough to be like, you know what? What if I can? Like, why not me? Why not me? Like, what makes these other people that have done these incredible things so special? Nothing makes them special aside from the belief that they're special, or that they're chosen to do this, or they're chosen for this vision. And so why don't we just adopt that mindset? Why don't we just take off that lid of limitations and say, why not me? I bleed just like they bleed. I sweat just like they sweat. I cry just like they cry. Nobody is born a doctor.
Right. That's
Nobody's
true.
born a professional athlete. Nobody's born, whatever it is. Nobody's born a lawyer. Whatever the case may be, they had to earn that. They had to go through that. They had to be curious enough to think that they could do it, or the possibility that they can do it, and then they had to sacrifice and risk and believe that it's possible.
Right.
And so vision. To go back to your initial question about that post, I'm a visionary. I believe that we all have a vision, that we all have a purpose, and so that's what I believe my calling is. That's what I believe my calling is. It's the messenger that can get people to really buy in and believe in their vision. Now, I'm going to answer another question here, a common question of, how do I know what my vision is? I've been let's just say they agree with me. Miguel, you're right. I've been so blinded by limitations. How do I find it? I'm so blind. How do I discover it? I always say two things. One, what's something that you care about so deeply, that you care about impacting so deeply that you would do it for free? And the other thing is what's something that you just nonstop think about? Or every now and then it keeps you up at night, like something that just really is just always on the back of your mind. And does it align with something that you enjoy so much that you would genuinely do it for free? And I guarantee you make a list, you narrow down, you'll find it. You'll find it. But you have to believe, and you have to be curious enough, and you have to say, why not me? Those willing to risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. I want to find out how far I can go. Like that's just it. And there's one thing I do know is that we all are going to die one day.
Exactly.
I have my beliefs about the afterlife, but I can't prove it to anybody. So I let people believe in what they want to believe in. I believe what I want to believe in. But here's what I do know is that we going to die one day.
Right.
We are going to leave this earth one day. And the question is how do you want to leave it?
Exactly.
And that's the answer to that.
So let me ask you this: has there been a day when Miguel has not felt so, I don't know, positive, where you needed motivation, where you felt down? What did you do? So
just so you know, that's most days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's most days. Motivation is like, what's the root word, right? Motive. Like, you have a certain motive for something. Basically motivation doesn't last. It doesn't last. And that's why, I enjoy doing daily posts to help people get some daily motivation, because some people really need it. I know I need it. I needed it. I currently do need it. I listen to speakers that I love very much as well. But there's a difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is that feeling of your endorphins are up. I feel really excited about this. Discipline does what you need to do regardless of how you feel. Wherever your feelings are.
I'm going to bring up this one post you did, because this other post, it was a couple of days ago, and I listened to it, and this one was like, do I not have Wi-Fi in here? Or is it real slow? Hold on.
While you're doing that, I'm going to try to think of the one you're thinking of. Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners about this one?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I want to be.
Yeah. So a beast. Yeah. That's when I put the hoodie on and everything.
Right?
That was a good episode. But yeah, that snippet, it talked about, everybody wants to be a beast. Everybody wants to be, like, for some people that means different things. Like, I just, I want to lift a lot of weights, or I want to, just be considered a strong person. But it's like, what a beast really is? Like, a beast is somebody who can walk through hell and be grateful that their legs are working. So it's a mindset. It's a mindset of gratitude.
Right.
And I believe that's what that episode was about. It was about gratitude. And when you are grateful, so this is so on topic with what we were just talking about, because when you lack that motivation, yes, there's discipline, but also gratitude. If you have the attitude of gratitude, you're going to get through your days a lot better than without. And when there's somebody who says, I have to be here, and there's somebody that says, I get to be here. Like, I get this opportunity. And so a lot of the times it's talking to yourself in that way. It's thinking that way when you're having those bad days of like, you know what? Yes, I'm going through hell right now. Yes, I'm going through a hard time right now. Yes, I'm struggling. Yes, I don't know how this bill's going to get paid. Yes, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I have an opportunity today. And why am I going to complain on an opportunity that I once was praying to get, that I was begging to get, that I was really wanting to get? And so I have an opportunity. There's I believe every 3 seconds, 5 people die. Like, I looked at the live calculator one day, and I took a deep breath and I exhaled, and in that time, I believe 3 people died. Like a real death calculator. Now, obviously there's a lot of births almost at the same rate. But what that leads me to believe is that we can go any minute. We can go any second. We don't know when our time is. So I'm not going to waste my time that I have left on earth complaining and not being grateful for the opportunity that I have. And you don't necessarily have to be in a good mood to believe that truth, And so that's what a beast is. A beast is somebody who says, you know what? I have today. I have this opportunity today, and I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to attack it, and maybe I'll fail. Maybe I'll fall flat on my face, but I'm here, and I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to give it my best. And some days your best will look different. Some days your best will look like, 50% of your best. But in that day, with how you're feeling, that may be your best. And as long as we're taking steps forward, I consider that a win. But it all does start with that attitude of gratitude, for sure. 100%.
Absolutely. I love that. So tell me about this upcoming podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So, so the first podcast I did, it was awesome. It was called the Leave Your Mark Podcast. And I started that in 2022. Yeah, 2022. And, I just made a big mistake, which was not really having a blueprint. Okay. And, cause I was kind of all over the place with it. I just did a solo podcast, just me, and then I did guests, and then I even did like a live version with a group of people, and then back to guests, and then back to myself, and then there wasn't a real blueprint. And going off into speaking engagements, I would be around a lot of successful business people, and they would give me the advice of, hey, like, you need to rebrand, like the Leave Your Mark podcast, it just, one, didn't have the right ring to it. It was too long. Like that was the name of my company, training athletes.
Okay.
Leave Your Mark Athletics. And it's spelled MARC for my son Marcus. So that's cool. That's cool. But now, I stepped away from that so I could, one, focus on training my athletes, but two, just to rebrand and start from scratch, you could say. And so, it's called the Miguel Mendoza Podcast.
Nice.
Very simple. It's me. It's just going to be me. It's not going to be with guests or anything. And it'll be, first episode premieres August 31st this year, 2026. And it's going to be available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. It'll be videoed on YouTube. And it's going to be every Monday. It's going to be every Monday. Hopefully help get people through their Mondays and start the week off strong. Yeah, it'll be out in the morning. So Monday mornings. And the goal is so the focus is leadership and mindset and also fitness. And so kind of it's going to be a self-help podcast. It's going to help get people to see their vision, to go after their vision, and to conquer their vision. But there's some key focuses this time, and one is leadership, because I believe we need more leaders in this world. We need people, especially with our youth. We need people leading our youth the right way, and you know that better than anybody. So many problems that we have with our youth and with our system right now is, fatherless homes or dads who shouldn't be dads, real poor leaders. And so if I could help even just a handful of leaders, that can trickle and lead into them leading other people. And that's the idea. That's the goal, is to develop leaders so we can just live in a better society, a better community, and people really going after impact. Because, one person, me, I can only have so much impact. So helping to impact other people is the idea. And then mindset is just, everything starts with the mind. Everything starts with the way that you think. And that's always been what I've done, and that's always going to be what I do. And so many topics with that. I mean, we talked about gratitude already. That's a mindset, and so, and then fitness. So I currently, I no longer run my own business, and this is good news, by the way.
Okay.
Running your business is rough. But so I now work at a gym called Adapt Training, and they trained me in college. They are geniuses. Like, they are just brilliant. They understand the human body. And speaking of blueprint, they understand the blueprint of the human body, the way it's supposed to function and move, and to improve the way the bodies move, and like preventative care with injuries and arthritis and all that stuff. Huge on range of motion and balance, strength, and all this stuff. And I already knew about it. I did it in college, and I used their method a lot in training my athletes, running my business. But now it got to a point where it's just like, I've reached my capacity as a one-man team. Like, I want to team up. But the only place I would consider teaming up with, giving up my business, was this place, Adapt Training. And they needed a guy to really steer their athletic department in the right direction. And so we teamed up, and it's been amazing. It's been so great. So great to where now it's really allowed me to dive deep back into podcasting, back into this, because podcasting and running a business, it's not so much of like a burnout, it's not so much of overwhelming, but it's just like, I want to give my best. I want to give the people the best possible quality they can get. And so now that there's so much off of my plate, I have just so much time, so much energy, so much mind space.
I love that.
To really hit this thing hard, and I'm super excited for it. So fitness, going back to that, just there'll be episodes here and there talking about that, not necessarily of being too nerdy with it, but just giving people like basic understandings of hip movement and how we need different hip movements and our shoulder blades and the anchor of the bodies and all this stuff. And yeah, just helping people out with building habits like that.
So I have 2 last questions for you.
All right.
So what do you do for self-care?
Yeah. Self-care, I work out.
Okay.
I read.
Okay. What do you read?
Yeah. It's funny. I just talked about this the other day. I only read self-help books, and it's not even to a point of like, just so I can continuously grow and learn, but that's just the only thing that really interests me.
Okay. So do you like Audible, or do you actually read a book?
I've actually never tried Audible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've always just read it. I've always just read pages.
Okay. Tell me your favorite reading environment.
Yeah, that's a real good question. I enjoy reading pretty simple, at my desk.
Okay.
I'm sitting at my desk, book on the table, got good lighting, and that's the best. Yeah, I can't get too comfortable when I read. I can't, lay down and snuggle when I read. I gotta be up, kind of upright and locked in.
What's the last book you've read, or what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book called Legacy. The author I just started reading it. My good friend Jeff, his CEO at Adapt, he gave me the book, and it's about an Australian rugby team. Okay. But it's about leadership.
Oh, nice.
And it's about what they did, about leadership, and how they didn't want talent on their team unless it was quality people, and they wanted quality people. They wanted a good culture. They banked off of having a winning culture to then go on and win, and they became like the most winningest rugby team in the history. And there's one chapter, it's called Cleaning the Sheds.
Okay.
Where these superstar rugby players, they're cleaning the sheds. Like they're doing the work you would think like, one of their staff members would do. But they're taking ownership, they're taking accountability and humility. Humility's huge part of leadership, huge part of that book in general. But ultimately, if you have a team, right? If you have a team running a business, a culture, for us, a gym, for me, athletes, all the athletes I train, I consider them under my team, right? And it's not just about developing high-performing athletes, but high character athletes. Right. So that's the goal. That's the idea. So love reading books like that. I want to say my favorite, not that you asked this, my favorite book might be Relentless by Tim Grover. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's trainer.
Okay.
And that's a must read if you really want to just take your mindset to the next level. It's a good one.
Okay. Who's your favorite basketball player?
I would probably say
of all time.
I'd probably say Michael Jordan. And I'm not really a basketball nerd. I'm not even really that into basketball. I love the Trailblazers. But he just unapologetically just dominated. And in a culture where it's very easy to get wrapped up in other people's activities and partying and all this stuff, someone has to step up and be the leader. Somebody has to step up and lead your team to victory, lead your team to success. And Michael Jordan was all about that. It's so funny because I know he's got his issues and stuff like that. A lot of people that I admire, like successfully business wise, I hate to admit it, are like sometimes the worst kind of people. But I'm like, in a sense, like kind of like naive on purpose to that, of like, I'm not going to about to join your fan club, but I'm going to pick apart the things that you did well,
right,
to succeed and stuff like that. But yeah, I have to say Michael Jordan for sure.
I'm still waiting for someone to choose Charles Barkley. He's my favorite.
I do love Charles. I do love Charles. And he's hilarious. He's so funny.
He's my favorite of all time.
That's good.
But, okay, last question.
Yeah.
Why does Miguel love Miguel?
I don't.
Don't say that.
Well, I'll explain. Let me explain. When I go about my day, I do my best to not think about myself. Like that that is, I'm naturally very egotistical. And so I'm talking like childhood stuff. I'm naturally egotistical. I'm naturally selfish. And so, does a drug addict need drugs to get over their drug addiction? The answer is no. So for me is when I go about my day, the less I think about myself, the more impact I can make on others. The less I consider, if I walk into a room, the goal is to not think about what people think of me. The goal is to add value to that room. And so I don't mean to just crash your question here, but it's I appreciate things that I've done. But if I were to give you an answer, I would say I love that I've given my son a loving, involved father. And I've made a lot of...
See, you're answering it.
I've
and that's a great answer.
Yeah, for sure.
So you totally answered it.
No, for sure. And then, but even when it comes to fathering my son, and it's not about you. It's not about you. If a parent goes into parenting and it's about the parent, you're in trouble. Kids are in trouble. But no, yeah. So there's your answer is fathering my kiddo.
Okay. I think that's a great answer. Well, Miguel, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing you with our listeners today. And to my listeners out there, know that you matter, you are loved. Until we chat again, Priscilla signing off.